There's more to this thing than hooping and hollering. There's more to this thing than jumping and sweating, although that's a vital part of it. God is moving us out into deeper waters. Now I want you to receive this word as unto the Lord. I have known this woman for 12 years. I dated her for 7, and I've been married to her for 5. Not one time in that amount of time has she ever asked to share a word with this congregation from the Lord. But I watched the Spirit of God come all over her. She could barely stand there. God's got a word to speak to us right now. I want you to receive it. In fact, I just want you, just if you can, just to close your eyes and lay your hands on your belly. Allow this word to penetrate your heart.
As I was standing there earlier in the service and the laying on of hands was going on, everyone was rejoicing. I felt that the Lord moved on me, and I began to weep. And He spoke, saying that while we rejoice with those who've been healed, our hearts should also be weeping that we still do not possess enough of the power and the presence of God to see everyone set free, to see everyone walk out of a wheelchair. And tonight is a night of getting it back, but we have to keep it. And it's more than just saying. It only comes through daily consecration, daily communion, relationship. And He kept speaking that same word to me, relationship, 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 relationship. That as we praise Him, it's not just because we praise Him because He's some kind of egotistical God that just wants to be told how wonderful He is, but it's because as we praise Him, we become filled with Him, and we become fuller and fuller, and we have to be filled with God and walk in that fullness and reveal Him and reveal that Christlikeness. And that just has to come through daily communion, and that to realize through total abandonment that not only as that song says we have nothing left but God, we really have nothing but God. We have no hope but Him. There is no hope in this world. There is no hope in this world system. No hope in this government. There is nowhere to put your hope but Him and in eternity. And we have to begin to get our eyes on eternity, not for just for ourselves, but to get a picture of hell. And I've only had, 1 or 2 instances like this. But the Lord let me see a loved one of mine, and she was at the judgment seat, and I was there watching. And the Lord told her that she had to depart, and she looked at me as though it was my fault, and it was my fault. And so it is time to focus on eternity, not for ourselves simply, but also for others. That what our lives on this earth are maybe 70, 80 years, even if the Lord tarries, and what we do here affects what's going to happen to us and to others in eternity. And we have to keep our eyes set on that also. That has to be our focus. Eternity for us and eternity for others. And that Christ-likeness will produce that. And it's just a daily communion and a daily walk. And it's time to set this world aside and set pride aside. And when you set pride aside, it's real easy to set what this world has to offer, because it has nothing. I found that out. I have no hope in any person. No, people will fail you, but God will not. And when you realize He is it, you have nothing but Him. And I don't want to sound doom and gloom, but when you get to that place, then everything else has its place. And then we begin to possess more of Him and more of His character, and more of that eternity and that immortality and that immortal life on the inside of us. And we can bring that to others. And then with that presence, we can see people walk out of these wheelchairs. It grieved me that young man sat back down, because he was with all of his might and all of his faith, I'm sure. And I'm not saying that it was anybody's fault, the men of God that were praying for him or whatever. But, as a corporate body, we should all of us possess enough of the power of God. I would love to be like Peter and John. I would love to have my shadow pass and be cast upon someone and they can walk. And not only for healing, but that presence of God can convict of sin as well. That when you walk into your families or your workplace, that they'd stop their dirty jokes and they'd stop their stories, and they'd stop their television or whatever else, and they would say, "Ma, you do convict me of my sin." And that's what we have to get to that place of total abandonment. And I'm trying in that constant Christ consciousness. But it is a time of rejoicing, but it's also a time of weeping and a time of mourning, because we are not there yet. And for revival to take place, we have got to get there. And it's burning, and it's flickering, and the flames are there. But for the fire to really start, it's going to take that Christ-likeness, that fullness of God in us to make it really happen.
Without him, I could do nothing.
Come on, find yourself a place of abandonment.
Without him,
let yourself go and let God take it.
I truly
Tell him you don't want anything but him. Tell him you don't need anything but him.
Without him, I would be drifting like a ship without a sail. Jesus, oh Jesus, do you know him today? Please don't turn him away.
Find him. Find him.
Without him, how lost I would be. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Do you know him today? Please don't turn him away. Without him, how lost I would be. Jesus, oh Jesus.